Welcome to the Terrible Podcast with your hosts from SteelersDepot.com, where you can find all your latest and greatest Steelers news. It's Dave Bryan and Alex Kozora, always lit, talking Steelers. And now, here's Dave and Alex.
Welcome to the Terrible Podcast, Season 13, Episode 52. He's Dave Bryan. I'm Alex Kozora, SteelersDepot.com. Thanks for being back with us here this Friday, Steelers Nation. Hopefully everybody had a very feastful and, however you want to say, great Thanksgiving overall. I know Dave and I probably didn't have our ideal Thanksgiving. I probably sound kind of sick because I'm getting over a bit of a cold. I know, Dave, you've had some back issues as well, but hopefully you still had a decent Thanksgiving.
Yeah, I was able to at least eat something, and we do the honey baked ham thing every year, and all the fixings that go along with that. So we got that out of the way. But let me tell you, back issues aren't fun, and this would be one of the least enjoyable Thanksgivings I've had in a while, just from a pain aspect. But I was able to sit and watch some football, and had a interesting moment last night there. I don't know what you thought about it with the whole Hunter Henry catch or non-catch or survive the ground at the goal line, and you watch that thing and it's very easy to compare that back to the whole Jesse James didn't survive the ground play several years ago, and my first thought was, that's a shame. Things is funny how the football world works and how things come back around sometimes. And I know Patriots fans are probably upset this morning when it comes to that particular play, but now they know how Steelers fans feel a few years ago. But some good football overall. I thought it very, very, very entertaining to kind of say that I guess that Dallas game didn't end up being as close, but there was a lot of interesting football to watch. And I'm looking at the college schedule, a lot of good kind of rivalry games, I think, coming on today, and then obviously on in tomorrow as well too. So and then cap it all off with the Steelers game on Monday night against the Colts.
Yeah, should be a sports-filled weekend. You going to watch the World Cup game today between the U.S. and England?
Yeah, probably not.
No?
I'd much rather look. I played soccer in high school and all like that. And, it's like basketball's like that with me now as well too. I'd much rather not watch it now. When we did go up to Oregon, during the off season there to visit my wife's cousin, the Portland, I think it's the Timbers up there. We had kind of VIP seats right on the field down there. So it was interesting to take that in from a live aspect. I haven't seen obviously a live soccer game in years, but I'd much rather sit and watch one of the college games today, to be quite honest with you.
All right, fair enough. Well, we'll see how
are
USA
you tuning
does.
into it?
I'll have it on. It's probably more or less background noise because I really can't sit down and lock in on a soccer game for 90 minutes, but it'll be on. Yeah.
All right.
We'll see what happens. It sounds like England might be slight favorites, but I don't know anything about soccer, so I could be totally making that up. Anyway, let's talk Pittsburgh Steelers here, and we will start with the team releasing their first injury report on Thanksgiving. Since they are playing Monday, there was no Wednesday injury report. And the names on the list are names that Mike Tomlin has already outlined. No surprises really overall. Not practicing on Thursday include running back Jaylen Warren with a hamstring injury, wide receiver Miles Boykin with the oblique, center Mason Cole with a foot, and corner Akella Witherspoon also with that hamstring that's bugged him since week 3. 3 players not practicing due to just rest: Cam Hayward, TJ Watt, and Larry Ogunjobi, so no concerns there. Again, sounds like Warren unlikely to play this weekend. Tomlin saying on Tuesday Mason Cole should come back by Monday, and we'll just have to wait and see on Boykin and Witherspoon.
Yeah, boy, the fact that Witherspoon, after all this time, still can't get back, to practicing isn't a good sign for him, right? So
Right.
probably looking at another inactive listing for him. We'll see how the rest of the week plays out with Warren. That's got to be tricky with a hamstring and a running back and all like that. So, and I think the speculation is starting to grow that we might see Anthony McFarland promoted from or elevated from the practice squad on. I guess it would be Sunday this week is when I think it would be Monday is when those would happen there. So we'll be sitting and waiting quite a while to see how that plays out. But the good thing is this is a longer week. So as Mike Tomlin likes to say, I'm sure they'll probably try to leave the light on as long as possible as they can with Warren. But I mean, and he was kind of optimistic about Cole. So I think we expect Witherspoon to be down. I think the one that we're sitting here watching the rest of the week is probably going to be Jaylen Warren then.
Right, and Miles Boykin. I don't know which way he's going to go. We'll see what Friday's report brings. But with Warren being a young guy with a hamstring injury, it just doesn't sound like he's going to get back in time. Although Tomlin, again, Tuesday saying he did not expect it to be a long-term injury, but strongly hinted that he was not going to play against the Colts. With McFarland wrote that article this morning saying this might be McFarland's last chance. And listen, I know that if he does get elevated, I mean, he's playing only a couple of snaps, but still a couple of snaps is better than the 0 snaps he's been playing. So we'll see if he can do anything with that time to show anything to either Pittsburgh or any prospective future team he may be playing for. So just wanted to highlight that because I thought McFarland had a good camp this summer, but with Warren's emergence, there really was no home for him.
If you do elevate him and you do dress him, you ought to try to scheme a couple of things for him, right?
I don't know how much you scheme for him intentionally. I do wonder, could you use him once or twice as a wing on a jet play or something like that?
Well, that's what I'm talking about. You try to scheme a couple of things to get the ball in his hands at least a couple of times.
Yeah, at the very least, I think he plays on some early downs, first and second down, gets 3-4 snaps and maybe a carry and a target or something like that. Mm-hmm. So just wanted to note that, this may be his only time to come up this entire year, assuming that does happen, which is no guarantee, but seems like that'll happen. And we'll just see what he does with the opportunity.
Right.
And from the Colts standpoint, what do the Colts have going on injury-wise? They had an estimated report yesterday, so I think it was kind of hard to gauge, really, to know who's hurt and who's not.
Yeah, it is kind of hard to gauge. They have, had they practiced, DeForest Buckner with ribs, Kylan Granson, a tight end, Ryan Kelly with a shoulder and a knee. That's their center. And defensive end Kwity Paye would not have worked. They had a couple of guys listed as likely to have been limited. Paris Campbell, the wide receiver, might be an illness going around that locker room right there because they had a couple of people, I think 3 players in total that are dealing with an illness right now. And Jelani Woods would have been a full participant with a shoulder yesterday there. So I think the ones and Kwity Paye, I think, very talented defensive end for them. I think he's been dealing with an ankle for a little bit, so it'll be interesting to see what happens with him. I think there's a report this morning that Ryan Kelly with his shoulder and knee is supposed to be able to give it or try to give it a go later today in practice there. So I guess the names really to pay close attention to as the rest of this week unfolds for them would be DeForest Buckner with the ribs, Ryan Kelly with shoulder and a knee, and Kwity Paye with an ankle.
Gotcha. And just so the listeners know, on Monday we'll do the Steelers Colts preview and also have a Colts reporter to talk to and get the skinny on Indianapolis. So we'll save all that for Monday, given the Monday night game. So let's switch now to the coordinator corner. And despite it being the holiday, still heard from Teryl Austin and Matt Canada. And in a rare moment, the team actually released the audio of those conversations. Typically, it's not audio based as the way that we get that information. And I can see why they don't do that, because Matt Canada had some salt to go with his Thanksgiving meal yesterday. He was not a happy camper talking to the media, was he, Dave?
It was a Thanksgiving miracle that we get it that early too, right? It added a little bit of context to it, didn't it? Overall, kind of the tone and all like that. And he said several times, look, I could go through the plays. I'm not going to. And then he ran through the plays there. the whole Pratt thing and all and he said in so many words that there's more to that, right? There's some sort of history there, but he want to let you know there's some sort of history there, but he didn't want to go into what the history was.
Well, I mean, the history is Pratt played for NC State when Canada coached there, so they knew each other in college.
Sure, but I think there's something else there, and I tried to research any kind of quotes from back then that one may have said about the other, and couldn't find anything about that. But I think it goes a little bit deeper than just being at the same school. Well,
I'm sure there's something probably happened when they were there. There's probably some story there. So because I don't think many people have put together those two aspects of it.
Right, and that's what I'm trying to say. I think there's, and we'll see if someone's able to dig it out or not. But there might be more to that. But he tried to sweep that up underneath the rug as best as he could, and kind of diverted back to Mike Tomlin's already addressed that. And but I just think just generally overall, he's tired of answering questions about a lot of this stuff, right? And frustration's obviously showing, and he did highlight several plays that he thought they probably should have hit. He highlighted that there's some missed assignments going on in there, which there are, and I think all that's and with good he tries to say that he doesn't read that stuff and tries not to pay it much attention, but how can he not, right?
Right, and he basically admitted that at one point, later saying we have a really good offensive coaching staff, even if you take me out of it, which is what everybody wants to do. So very self-aware that he is not well liked by the media and especially by this fan base. But yeah, I mean, he was. Where
did you see him being the saltiest at?
Well, I mean, just in some of the way he was saying some of those things. He talked about going through the plays that failed in the second half, saying, call the screen into a blitz, which I'm sure is what you'd like to do, and just kind of stuff like that. And then making that comment that, everybody wants to fire me and just some of those things. And when he was asked about the Pratt stuff, which to me is kind of tiresome and was barely a story to begin with. And certainly it's not a story days after the game, but whenever he was asked about that, Canada saying, I'm not going to feed into your narrative, the story you're hunting for and things like that. So not saying he's necessarily wrong about those things, but clearly wasn't happy to answer some of those questions and kind of feel the frustration he had when he hear the audio of it.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, when Canada went through some of the second half issues, he kind of really laid out almost play by play and talked about the screen game stuff. And again, I don't want to pretend like Canada called a fantastic game, but I felt like in this Bengals game in more recent weeks, it's been probably tipping the scales more towards execution errors as opposed to schematic and game plan and things that I would put directly on Canada. Those screenplays, I know you had the clip, the screenshot, that how does that screen to Diontae Johnson in the second half only gained 1 yard based on the initial blocking of it. So stuff like that looks good, that's game planned well and called at a good time, just is not working.
Right. And that was another opportunity, to get your top paid wide receiver involved early, running in the right direction. He runs right up the back of Freiermuth, who got kind of handled by, I think, like a DB in that situation there. That's one that you really wanted. You just look at it overall, that's a play that you think could potentially hit for an explosive play there, at least when the ball was delivered, right?
Yeah, or at least get, 5-6 yards, not the 1 yard that it got. So again, there were a lot of instances of it looking okay initially, but just the execution of it. They threw that screen to Freiermuth a bit later on, and again, it looks good, but there's miscommunication, and Logan Wilson runs free, and what should have been a 5-10+ yard play becomes, I think, a 3-yard gain. So things like that just small errors can really lead to big missed opportunities.
Right. And look, you hate to keep beating the horse here, but those third downs that this team had to face, especially as you highlighted there in the second quarter, there were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, I think overall, third downs in the second half of this game. And a lot of them were long situations. Now there was a 3rd and 4, and another 3rd and 4 that, they had opportunities obviously here, but I mean, this is just an instant. I feel like you face so many third downs in that game, and they got away with being able to convert some in the first half and finally caught up with them in the second half. In fact, three of the later third downs were 351 and later in the game. And I think they converted two of those, maybe at least one. I know that they did, but they got to get this. They got to get this missed assignments out of there. They got to play a lot cleaner here. And as we highlighted already, there are a couple of those key series in the game when they had field positions just went the wrong way, and that was the huge turning point in the game. When you combine in the fact that Cincinnati marched down the field 90-something yards on them.
Diontae Johnson, also a hot topic of conversation throughout the week in terms of his usage, his role. I know he spoke to the reporters yesterday, and Matt Canada asked about Diontae Johnson as well. And basically what, do you hear from Kenny Pickett, do you hear from Johnson? They have to move Johnson around a bit more. He's probably too statically placed in this offense and too easily schemed away by defenses and things like that. So that seems to be what Pickett wants. It certainly seems to be what Diontae Johnson wants, to get moved around, to be in different spots, to try to free him up more and maybe create better matchups. So that's what we'll be watching for, to see if this team really does something different in terms of their alignment and assignment of Diontae Johnson.
And I think in so many words, Canada said we can expect that, didn't he?
Is that what he said? I mean, I'm trying to find the comment on that.
Something to the effect that, that's what we need to do, or something like that. He didn't come right out and say they're going to do it, but I kind of got a sense while listening to it that maybe, that will be the plan, that it will move them around more this week and all.
Okay. Yeah.
Look, I wrote about this on Thanksgiving here as well too. After you and I talked about it, I promised that I'd have something on it, and you got to get the football in. You got to get the football in his hands, out in space, and not running back towards line of scrimmage in here. And I think kind of what I showed by target route types so far this season compared to last season. Just got to do a better job of getting the football to him, other than these curls and comebacks and out routes and all, because it gives him not a lot of opportunity to gain yards after the catch. And that's the thing that's going to make the big difference here with him, is catching short and running long. However, man, if you go back and you look at, 13, 14 explosive plays that he had last season, good handful of those came via go fly routes, right? Pushing the football down the field. And I think he's had just 4 such pass attempts on that route so far this year. He's caught one of them, and that obviously was for a big gain there. So I think there's 2 ways to handle him here and get him involved. If you got to, and look, and we just mentioned one of those wide receiver screens that probably should have popped and it didn't. I wouldn't be afraid to try one of those maybe early in the game against the Colts, going maybe the other direction, maybe the other side, something like that. See if you can get it blocked up, if you get the good look this time around here. But I think lining him up in the slot and seeing what you can look. He's been open a couple of times on some of these mesh type situations as well too, and he hadn't been hit. So I really think they need to make a concerted effort to get him the ball in his hands, closer to the line of scrimmage, out so he can run with it. And then the other aspect of it is, I don't think they probably need to scheme a couple of things up. I don't know, some slot fades or something on some of these deeper down the field targets for him, to give him an opportunity to make some plays down the field that way.
Yeah, I haven't started my whole tape study into the Colts defense, but just looking at some of their on paper stats, they're doing a good job of not allowing the deep ball, keeping a lid on things. They're pretty well coached by their DC, Gus Bradley, who's been in the league for a long time and is a really well respected coach. But they allow a really high completion rate, so it sounds like they're allowing a lot of short stuff, and so I think that probably plays well into what Diontae Johnson can do if he can be used on slants and crossers and dig routes and things like that. So we'll see. I'll certainly be watching to see if his usage changes at all. That'll be reflected in the charting that Tom Mead does. But I would expect more bunch sets and different alignments, lining up inside a bit more often, maybe some motion to try to just change his splits and things like that. So maybe that opens up the route tree a bit more if his split's a bit more reduced than where it has been as that typical backside X receiver.
Do you think he's handled himself okay throughout this overall?
I think, again, like I said, I think on the last podcast, early in the year, the first month, he, like, basically the entire receiver room was venting their frustrations and complaining and probably saying things a bit too openly, giving the media too much fodder to work with. And I think somebody talked to him, Tomlin or Chris Jackson or somebody, and said, we got to, quiet stuff down and not be so, publicly upset. And I think lately Johnson's really tried to put on a good face and know he has to be a leader in that room as the most veteran guy in that receiver room. I think he's probably said and done the right things, but certainly you can feel his frustration and desire because he's a competitive guy that wants the ball, wants to make plays, wants to earn that contract that he just got. I'm sure he kind of feels the weight of that. So I think recently he's done a good job to try to be that leader, but certainly you can still, feel and that frustration is very much evident.
Look, the metrics still say he's getting open.
Well, don't tell that to Canada. He's not aware of any of those stats. So, but he's still a good route runner. I mean, he's still one of the better route runners in football. So hopefully his time will come. And
evidently he's, had a few conversations with Kenny and what can he do? What can they can do? And he just, so many words, keep his head down and keep working. Hope they see me more, I think was some of the phrasing that he used in that. So, look, if they don't get him being able to produce, more than what he's been able to do, especially after the catch, then it's going to be the same old, moving forward here.
Right. I thought George Pickett's made some interesting points that he and Kenny have a really good connection and relationship because they've been working together since basically the pre-draft process began, going back to the combine and then certainly in rookie mini camp and in OTAs and throughout training camp and things like that. So Pickens talked about how just good of a relationship him and Kenny Pickett have. And I don't want to say that's not influencing the targets that much, but certainly there's a good connection there between Pickett and Pickens. And that's allowed Pickens to become at a lot of times the number one receiver in this offense. Mm-hmm. Anything else from Canada? Anything else to say? I talked about Najee Harris kind of being back to full strength and changing his approach. So as much as his team, Harris included, downplayed the injury and the effects of the foot injuries that Harris has had, I think the team is now kind of admitting that, hey, that probably was more of an impact, more of a factor than what we initially let on.
Yeah, look, this team's got to do better on first downs overall. Yeah,
what is their first down number? I know last year was miserable. I think it was the worst number last year, I want to say, or 2 years ago.
Let's look that up real quick then.
We're in the Dave and I look stuff up while we talk on the podcast portion of today's podcast. But yeah, their first down metric last year, I want to say, was the worst in football. They had the fewest yards per play. And
are you looking at first down overall, or are you looking at 1st and 10 situations?
1st and 10, but the number should probably be relatively similar. Right. StatHead is not loading for me. I don't know if
it's not loading over here either.
Well, then I guess we won't get to know.
There it goes.
All right. Well, you look it up because it's your internet apparently is better than mine. But
let's see here. It struggled there. You might want to try it again. I think it was just.
It just came up for me, but you're ahead of me, so go ahead and look it up. Yeah, last year I think they were the league's worst first down offense, averaging like 4.0 yards per play, even worse than Houston, who was a miserable offense. And I know I looked a couple weeks into the year and they were better on first down by about a full yard, but I haven't checked in quite some time. I imagine they're better than last year, but I don't know how much better that really is or how good that figure is. I'd imagine, again, a bit better overall.
Let's see. Yards to go, 10. Let's see what we get here for 2000.
I'm going to say 5.3, just to throw out a number on what their average yards per play is on 1st and 10 this season. I'll just say 5.3.
I forgot to remove the
that might be high.
Here. Hold on.
Yeah. But we'll see. First down success. I assume that Bengals game was probably pretty poor on first down. Talked about how the Bengals were so good to stay out of third down. Pittsburgh running, so many plays on third down, a quarter of them in that Bengals loss compared to the Bengals who ran third down about 14% of the time.
Well, why is this struggling all of a sudden here?
No, I'm not going to let you.
Hold on a minute here. Let's see.
It's that big post-Thanksgiving rush.
Yeah, 1st and 10. I have them at 4.6 overall. Let me.
Okay, I was high then.
Let me subtract out Neal's no plays.
Oh, okay. Maybe that'll push the number up then.
A little bit here. Forgot to eliminate those.
Yeah. Last year, I want to say it was around 4 yards per play on first down. So I don't know. I mean, that would be a slight improvement. I don't know where that 4.6 ranks overall. You know me, I love my relativity in terms of where that stacks up to the rest of the league. I'm guessing that's probably like 25th or something like that if you look at that 4.6 figure.
All right. Looks like 5.9.
Really? That high?
No, maybe that's defense. Man, their browser, I mean, their website is really struggling today.
Yeah, I don't think it would go that high.
Team offense, 1st and 10 without no plays, without kneel downs, 5.0.
Okay, so that was pretty close. I said 5.3. What does that rank overall? What is that 5.0? How good of a number that is compared to the rest of the league?
20. There's 3 other teams that got 5.0, but it just assuming that the decimals work out the way that it has sorted here, that would have them 28th.
Okay, so still pretty bad, but
Right.
but last year's was. Can you check last year's? I think it was 4.0. I want to say or something. It was last. It was the worst mark in football on first down.
Let me change some numbers here real
Right
quick.
around the worst. But so a small improvement, but still that has not been good enough to get results this team needs.
And then you mix in some of these second down runs that they've been having that they
Right.
probably need to get away from.
Yeah, I think one of Canada's biggest issues is playing for 3rd and manageable. And I understand the obviously desire you'd rather be in 3rd and 4 than 3rd and 8. But sometimes you're in these second down situations. You saw that with the sprint outs early in the year. You're seeing that with some of the second down runs in the Bengals game. And you know, when you have an opportunity on 2nd and 8, do you want to play for 3rd and 4, or do you want to try to pick up the first down? And I think sometimes this team has been too leaning towards let's play for 3rd and 4 and try to convert that way.
Yeah, their website is really, really struggling this morning.
Okay, well, forget about that. Either way, it's still bad. 5.0, 28th in football is not where you want this offense to be. It's not going to be conducive to success. So that's the thought there. Let's switch over to, if that loads, just let us know. But let's switch over to Teryl Austin, who I think had far less to say overall. Talked about DeMarvin Leal coming along as he is still working his way back, coming off of injured reserve. They still have, I think, about a week on him to make a decision. So there's no rush to do that overall. Anything else from Austin that caught your attention?
Talking about the 50-50 balls and how they got to make more plays on those kind of things. And that will help go into the aspect of all these explosive plays that they're giving up overall. And I think he was asked too more about Cameron Sutton and can they do something with moving him around more? And that's an option for them. He wouldn't come out right out and say that they're going to do that, but did highlight that they've had some injuries on the outside and yada yada. But he really didn't give up a lot of. Talked about could him maybe sending more pressure be something, and it didn't sound like he was too interested in dialing up more pressure to help combat all this. So I think they're just resigned to the fact that they want their secondary guys to not lead plays on the field and just make more plays overall, and especially on the 50-50 contested balls.
Yeah, I don't think pressure is going to be the answer. I think when your corners are struggling, you don't want to leave them on more islands than you have to. But it goes back to, what Austin's saying about losing those 50-50 balls. And to me, what that says is you're losing at the catch point. You've seen plays where even in the Eagles game, think about the Browns game, Patriots game, you had situations you could win one-on-one. You had good technique. You were carrying the route vertically, but at the catch point, when the play actually matters, you were losing out on those moments. You were getting mossed. You were getting schooled. And I think that goes back to the need for this team to find a corner that can really play the catch point well and have those high-end ball skills. This team's probably lacking. They have some technical guys, some smart guys, some guys who can stay in phase, but guys who are struggling to finish. And that's the most important part of the pass game, is at the catch point to finish and make the play or not make the play. And Pittsburgh's losing out on those situations far too often.
4.3 last year on 1st and 10 for this offense, and that was
dead last.
Last in the league, right?
So an improvement, but not enough. It's certainly not where the improvement it needs to be overall for the Steelers offense. But yeah, with Sutton, they got to do something, whether that is playing Norwood in the slot on passing downs, whether that's bumping Sutton inside. Again, I go back to the question. I'm going to sound like a broken record, Dave, but why not play James Pierre more? What this guy's played well. Let's see more of him. I want to see more of him over a larger sample size to really have a good feel for what this guy could be and is not, and why they refuse to play this guy despite putting on good tape in every opportunity he's played this year just really baffles me.
Right. And look, I mean, it doesn't sound like Witherspoon's coming back anytime soon. Jackson really doesn't seem to be a legitimate option in that. So really if you're going to try to in sub-package situations with that extra corner is on the field to try to get away of having to play Millett in there, you really only have the two options, and that's Sutton and Norwood. And Sutton's got the experience in there. And as you mentioned, in the limited time that Pierre has played, it hasn't been, overly bad this year. So maybe that's something else to look for this week.
I hope so. I think I'll just be asking for it a lot. If you made me choose between what option I would prefer playing Sutton inside and Pierre on the outside as opposed to playing Norwood in the slot. But, two options is a ton of options in the NFL. Injuries cannot be an excuse anymore, even if Witherspoon is out and William Jackson is out. They have the opportunity to bump Millett off the field. That's been their plan. I've talked about that, and that's kind of changed recently to their detriment. So we'll see if that changes. I think it should.
And look, they've got the Colts have got a receiver in Michael Pittman that I don't think they're too afraid to maybe move him around a little bit. They would probably love to get him matched up on Millett, wouldn't they?
He plays a lot in the slot, I think. He was kind of a big slot guy coming out of USC. He's a 6'2", 200 plus. I mean, he's a big guy. So Millett's not going to have a good matchup there. It's tough to get any good matchup. Cam Sutton's still going to be outside facing him, but Sutton is certainly the better guy to have on, the better coverage guy to have on Pittman. So this team better make some changes. That's for sure.
Right. And I think outside of that, I think that's kind of really the only thing that he just kind of peppered, a little bit about defense and possible changes. And he really didn't give up any secrets within that.
Right. Anything else from any players that spoke, Diontae, Pickens, or anybody that I missed that you wanted to talk about, or any other Steelers-related topic on your mind?
Not as far. I mean, we hit the stuff that Diontae and Pickens had to say, right? Did Levi Wallace have anything really interesting to say?
No, only thing he said was just needing to stop Jonathan Taylor. Said first and foremost, that's their number one goal is to take him out. And he talked about how the Colts, crack safeties and make corners tackle. And so the corners are going to have to be really strong and run support against Taylor. So that'll be certainly a big factor and maybe X factor. Maybe that'll be my X factor of the week to watch.
All right. What else do we have? What'd you think about Pickens saying that practices in college were more difficult than they are with the Steelers?
Yeah, I think it's a little tongue-in-cheek. I think you just talked about all the talent they had at Georgia. Maybe that means there's less talent in Pittsburgh. I don't know. But, I think it's just more reflection on just some of those crazy college teams that Georgia has.
All right. What else is out there outside of coordinators and player interviews?
I think that's probably about it overall. So probably be a shorter show today without as much happening given the Monday game right now. So if you're ready, let's get ready to make our Week 12 picks for this weekend. But before we do that, let's hear from our friends over at MyBookie.
All right, let's do it. Let me pull up my ad here if I can find what I did.
What did we go yesterday? I think we both went. Did I go 2-1? You went 1-2?
I think you went 2-1. I think I went 1-2.
Okay. We split the first two games, right?
Right. Let's see. I had Lions. Let's see. You had the Lions were 9.5 for the Lions plus the Cowboys -10 and the Vikings laying 2.5. You went Bills, Giants, and Vikings. Right?
And the Giants got me that backdoor cover late, so thank you very much for that.
Yeah. So let's see. You hit that means you would have hit the Giants and the Vikings game. I had the Bills, the Giants, and the Patriots. Right.
Yeah. So you hit the first game, but then missed the next two.
All right. So you went 2-1. I went 1-2 yesterday. All right. Let's move forward here. And Where is it here? With so many sports books to choose from, you need a platform that makes it simple to bet and win, like MyBookie. MyBookie has a huge selection of odds, props, and contests for all your sports betting needs, anytime, anywhere. Stream games and live bet while you watch so you can turn game day into payday with MyBookie. Sign up free today. Use promo code TERRIBLE. That's promo code TERRIBLE, and claim half a deposit match on any amount up to $1,000. Once again, that's promo code TERRIBLE to claim your deposit bonus and give yourself the competitive edge. When you play with MyBookie, you're not just betting, you're joining a winning team. Bet anything, anytime, anywhere with MyBookie at mybookie.ag.
Oh, sorry for the long pause there. It's blow my nose. All right, it's a little bit of a show today. I apologize for that. Let's get to our Week 12 picks, Dave.
All right, let's do it here. Let's see. Next up here on the NFL calendar for Sunday would be the Baltimore Ravens at the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Jaguars plus 3.5 at home against the Ravens.
Yeah, give me the Ravens on this one.
Yeah, I don't see how. I don't see how the Jaguars are going to be able to keep up with him. I think Travis Etienne's having a nice year and all like that, but I think the Ravens are going to have too much for him, especially if Andrews is Andrews and Lamar Jackson's Lamar Jackson there. So I will lay the 3.5 points along with you. Denver Broncos on the road against the Carolina Panthers in a game that I won't be paying close attention to. Broncos on the road laying 1.5 against the Panthers, who I think what's that going to be? Sam Darnold this week?
Yeah, they're 47th starting quarterback of the year. This is a root for the asteroid type game. Give me the Panthers, I guess, for no good reason in particular.
I'll take the other side of that because I need to start catching up some games on you here. So I will take the Broncos on the road, lay the 1.5 there. The Cincinnati, this ought to be a pretty good game. Cincinnati Bengals on the road against the Tennessee Titans. The Bengals favored by 3 on the road over the Titans in this one.
Yeah, I wonder if Jamar Chase is playing in this game. It sounds like he has a chance to do so. I have not followed his status too closely throughout the week. Man, the Titans are just so well coached by Mike Vrabel. He could really be a coach of the year type candidate. So he just gets the most out of that, out of his 53 on a weekly basis. What's the line again?
3. Bengals on the road, favored by 3.
This one's tough. I'll say Titans cover. I don't know if they win, but they'll cover.
I'll go the other way. I think Cincinnati wins this by a touchdown, so I'll lay the 3 points on this one here. Tampa Bay Buccaneers on the road against the Cleveland Browns. The Buccaneers, I think, have now, back-to-back wins. 3.5 points in this one. Buccaneers favored on the road in Cleveland.
Yeah, Buccaneers offense figuring it out. The Browns' run defense has been so bad. I know the Buccaneers' rushing offense has been just as miserable, but they find some hay with Fournette. This is the last game for Brissett, right? And then Watson, I believe, comes back next week.
So
I think the Browns drop this one.
I'll take the Buccaneers and lay the 3.5 this one with this one as well here. Atlanta Falcons on the road against the Washington Commanders. Commanders laying 4 at home against the Falcons.
Yeah, I think Taylor Heineke has done a fantastic job. They just kind of win with that guy. So I know the Falcons have this 4-headed attack at running back we'll be talking about soon, but I'm going to go Washington.
Don't Washington get the edge rusher back this week too? Yeah,
Chase Young is playing and Kyle Pitts is out for Atlanta, so give me the Commanders.
Yeah, give me the Commanders, lay the 4 points in this one. Houston Texans on the road against the Miami Dolphins. Huge line in this one, as you would probably imagine. Dolphins laying 14 at home against Houston.
That is a big line. New quarterback for Houston. Kyle Allen will start for the Texans over Davis Mills. It's a really big line, but for a good reason. Give me the Dolphins.
Yeah, I can't envision this going well for the Texans here. Give me the Dolphins, lay to 14 points. I'm with you. Chicago Bears on the road against the New York Jets, who will have, I guess, Mike White at quarterback now. What do you think about that decision they made with benching the kid?
Yeah,
I don't. Not only benching him, but I don't think he's going to dress this week.
Nope. Joe Flacco is going to be the backup. Yeah, I think. I don't pretend to really be in tune with the Jet situation too much, but I think there's a loss of confidence in Zach Wilson in that locker room when he, I think leading up to his comments he made post game, but whenever he says post game after their loss, I didn't feel like I let the defense down. You lose the room that way. So I think the change probably had to happen, to be honest with you. So I think that was a good decision there. But still give me Chicago. Wait, what's the line again?
6. Jets at home, favored by 6.
Really? Okay. Is their offense going to put up enough points? So the Bears' offense has come alive. The Jets have a really strong defense. I think it's maybe the most underrated defense in football. But I'm going to go Chicago on this one.
I'm going to go Chicago play. I wouldn't be surprised if Chicago wins this one outright here. So I'm with you. I'll take the 6 points there. The Raiders on the road against the Seahawks. Seahawks favored by 4 at home against the Raiders in this one. Yeah,
Geno Smith continues. I got to go with Seattle.
I think the Raiders do enough to get, they've had a lot of close games this year and all. I wouldn't be surprised if the Raiders win this outright as well, too, even though it's on the road. Give me the Raiders plus the 4 points. I'll go opposite you on that one. Los Angeles Chargers on the road against the Arizona Cardinals. The Chargers. I didn't say Rams. The Chargers on the road against the Cardinals here. Charger, what do you think about old Sean Kruger? Boy, they got a mess going on over there. Second coach, I think, within the last calendar year to be let go. And anyway, Chargers on the road laying 3 points against the Cardinals, who I'm guessing they're hoping to get Kyler Murray back this week.
Yeah, it sounds like Murray's going to play. Yeah, with Kugler. I just saw some of the reporting, and it sounds very terrible. Some really scary looking headlines there for what Kugler's allegedly accused of doing, but. Give me the Cardinals actually to pull this one out.
I'll go the other side. I'll take the Chargers on the road. Herbert and company to cover that 3 points there. Let's see. The New Orleans Saints on the road against the 49ers. Boy, Jimmy G certainly does have his moments, doesn't he? And it doesn't hurt that you got a running game and can do some of those things that they can do in that offense there. 49ers at home hosting the Saints. 9.5 in this one.
That is a pretty big line. You're right. Garoppolo's in a really good system that doesn't ask him to do too much, that has some great weapons, a really strong offensive line overall. Mike McGlinchey's going to be a free agent this offseason, so just a kind of a tackle name to watch for a little bit. He's never probably quite lived up to his draft status, but just something to consider there with all the attention Trent Williams gets. Has a big line overall to take. I'm going to say the 49ers win, but the Saints find a way to cover.
I'm going to go with you on this. I think the 49ers beat them, but I think the Saints probably get the back door in here somehow. So I'll take the Saints plus 9.5 with you. Los Angeles Rams on the road against the Kansas City Chiefs. If I would have told you this line would have been 15.5 at ahead of week one, you probably would. You would have asked me who's all hurt.
Well, that's the question to ask for this game. Yeah.
And that seems to be what's going. Is Stafford going to play in this one?
No, I think it's going to be Bryce Perkins. It's not going to be the backup Walford. It's going to be you wonder if they're really wishing they would have traded for Mason Rudolph at this point. Mm-hmm. But their season, I guess, is kind of over. So what's 15-point line?
15.5. Is that half point the kicker or what?
You know what? Sometimes you get that new quarterback in, and Perkins is a mobile guy. They just kind of find ways to make some plays. I think the Chiefs obviously win this game, but I think the Rams cover when they only lose by 13-14.
You know what? Crazily, I'm going to go with you on this. Give me the Rams plus 15.5. They still lose this, but maybe they'll keep it close enough here. Green Bay Packers on the road against the Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles laying 6.5 at home against the Pack.
Yeah, Packers are finding some traction. Christian Watson has really broken out in a big way. That's Tyler Wise's guy. The Packers have a good front with Kenny Clark in the middle. I think they find a way to cover this one.
I'm going to go with the Eagles and win this one by a touchdown to cover that 6.5 points there. Got to start making up some. You've gotten kind of streaky at a couple of times.
I think I have a new career. I think I'm going to go in my betting world here. I'm bad with the Steelers picks, but everything else I'm pretty good at guessing.
You're America's new hot tout, if you will.
Is that what they call that?
Yeah, but all right, I think that's got it. And I said I'll take the Eagles lay to 6.5 in this one, and that leaves us the Steelers and the Colts, and we'll pick that one against the line on Monday. Right now, it is Colts favored by 2.5 at home against the Steelers. So we'll circle back to that one on Monday after we do our preview.
All right, sounds good. Let's get to reader emails and close out today's show.
All right, let's see what we have in the machine today. On Andreas and Antone writes in, hey guys, why would the Steelers draft Presley Harvin, a guy known for his booming punts, if they prefer directional punting? Answer that one first.
Yeah, it's a good question. I don't know what all that went into their decision. Sometimes the best punter can hopefully do it all. I think with directional punting, you still want distance. You don't want a 40-yard punt. You still want 50-something that's placed well. So you just kind of want the most talented guy. But it's a fair question overall. I don't know exactly their whole eval. They were impressed with Harvin during his pro day when Danny Smith went down there to work him out. It was rainy, conditions weren't great, and Harvin by reports excelled. So I bet you that pro day performance probably had a lot to do with why they chose Presley Harvin. So I think that's kind of what I go back to in terms of why they took that guy. You have your special teams coordinator watching that guy, working that guy out, and him exceeding in a kind of crappy environment probably meant a lot to the Steelers.
Number two, I agree that the Steelers need depth at edge. How many teams have three edge guys they're comfortable with, and the team's ability to get after the quarterback doesn't drop off dramatically once the starters are off the field? I mean, we'd have to go team by team in here, but I mean, there are some teams. Look, I mean, the Ravens are probably a good example of it, right? That can rotate some edge guys off.
Yeah, a lot of teams, I would say probably more 4-3 teams, but a lot of those teams have really deep defensive lines that play a lot of different people and guys that can really get after the quarterback. So I don't know, again, like you said, you'd have to go through it team by team, but just knowing in Pittsburgh how valuable those edge guys are, as Mike Tomlin has said, and as I've repeated and will continue to repeat, the outside linebackers are the engines of this defense. And so you better be as strong there as you are at any position on the field. Now, again, I'm not expecting the third guy to be as good as TJ Watt and have a 20 sack, kind of season, but somebody where the fall off is not as dramatic as it has been in recent years, where you go from Watt and Highsmith to Charlton or Tuska or Malik Reed or Jameer Jones or somebody like that. So just to recognize the importance of, you probably have to invest more capital than you might even think to have a really quality and strong number three behind your starters.
Right. And you always got to keep grooming in the hopper as well, too. So, and you got to do a better job at trying to get some of these guys off the field and not asking them to continue to play, the high amount of snaps like that. So
right.
It'll be interesting to see how this team addresses or if they address at all Alex Highsmith during the offseason. Even if they did address Alex Highsmith, I don't think such a thing would happen until you get on into training camp time. So obviously the draft will come and go before then. But I fully expect this team to draft an edge within the first three picks, I would think, this year.
Yeah, I think somewhere around there, especially with a couple of, second rounders to play with. And also with Highsmith, I know we talked about, we think he'll get a deal, but there's no guarantee that he gets a deal. What if he wants weight? What if he wants, crazy
right.
money and you can't just pay that? So remember, they drafted Highsmith a year before Bud Dupree's contract expired because they knew that they weren't going to be able to retain Dupree on a long-term deal. And so I think, A, you do that for good depth, but you draft an edge guy. B, so you have somebody to get a year in your system should you not re-sign Alex Highsmith right. for whatever reason. So I think there's kind of a multi-fold reason that you would attack edge on day two.
They could just, root for Highsmith, I think, to make the Pro Bowl just in case. So it gets a little bit more money in his pocket via the proven performance escalator. He's already qualified for level one, but he can make a little bit more money if he makes the Pro Bowl on the original ballot. He would qualify for a level three proven performance escalator raise in that, and he might need it because if he doesn't get a new deal next during the off season there, then he's essentially probably playing for the tag, right? In 2023. So there is no guarantee, but it is something that they might have to consider just the same, depending on price and affordability and all. And look, he's a good kid too. I mean, and he has made progress in his game this year. And didn't you just do a study on him based on what Brandon Thorne does with quality of sacks and quality of rush?
Yeah, according to Thorne, who does fantastic work breaking down the trenches, both offense and defense, but he has a sack score that kind of determines the quality of all sacks because they're not all created equally. And he said Alex Highsmith has the second highest sack score of anyone in football, only behind Michael Parsons, better than Myles Garrett, better than everybody else in the NFL. So I'm just kind of quantifying what he's done this year. How much of an increase in pay would he get if he makes the Pro Bowl and goes from level 1 to level 3? Is that $1 million spread there?
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit. Yeah, it's around, and it all depends on what the tender amounts come in. But it would be, I think, somewhere in the neighborhood of another $1 million or so more.
Okay. Yeah. Again, I mean, would you want to get Highsmith into a long-term deal? Absolutely. I'm all for that. But there's no guarantee of that because I doubt you're going to be talking contract too much by the time April's draft comes rolling around. So you want to protect yourself that way before you really get into the nitty-gritty of can we get a deal done with Highsmith. Is there a path there? And then B, just to have good depth in general, because the odds that, your starters are going to be healthy for the entire season, not miss any time, are probably pretty low.
All right. Jay Matthewson writes in, Dave and Alex, happy Thanksgiving and thank you for everything you do. You are truly the best in the business. Well, thank you for that. Jay, I know how much you love hypotheticals, so here's one for you. Just imagine if the Steelers had an offensive coordinator, let's call him Cat Manada, who was running one of the worst offenses in the league. Let's also imagine that there were two former players, let's call them Clace Chapel and Juju Shith. You almost got me there.
Yeah, careful.
Schmooster, who made thinly veiled comments that implied the Steelers' offense was bush league after seeing greener grass. Let's say that opposing team members and members of the media frequently commented about the predictability of the Steelers' offense. And lastly, let's say that this is very clear that they were clearly underutilizing offensive weapons like a hypothetical Diontae Johnson. In this hypothetical world, why would Cat Manada still be the OC? Would opening up his position send out the bat signal to the rest of the league, blah, 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 so people could start lining up? The standard is the standard, right? I know this is a far-fetched scenario that would never happen in the city of champions. I know you hate hypotheticals, but please humor me. I guess this is along the lines of just, Jay just trying to say why haven't they fired Matt Canada yet?
Yeah, is that what he means by sending up the bat signal? I don't understand that aspect of it.
He said, in this hypothetical world, why would Cat Manada still be the OC? Would opening up this position send out the bat signal to the rest of the league that a premier job for a storied franchise is available, so people can start lining up to be considered at the end of the year? And does keeping him in his current role risk the coaching staff losing the locker room? After all, if a player is not performing, he gets benched. Shouldn't the standard apply to coaches as well? And does this send a message of non-accountability to the team? I think he's just trying to have a little bit of fun there with kind of hypothetical. In other words, he's asking why haven't they let Matt Canada go yet?
Yeah, I mean, it's a fair question to ask. And in Pittsburgh, I would just say the answer is that's not something they generally do. The last time they fired a coach mid-season, I don't even know when that was. It wasn't. Ray Sherman was after the year. Al Evers was before the year, so it hasn't really happened before. I mean, I guess Adrian Clem leaving, that wasn't really a firing. It was that he was taking a job, and then he went out west to go back to Oregon. In terms of send out the signal that, hey, we're going to replace your OC mid-season, come line up and send in your resumes. You're not going to do that mid-season. That's pretty disrespectful, pretty unprofessional, and things like that. So that's not how Pittsburgh's going to operate. But we'll just see what happens after the year if Canada is retained or if he's not.
Yeah, look, you've gone this far. Get used to seeing Matt Canada up in the booth and those shots on the TV the rest of the season here. I don't know what to tell you beyond that. I think Alex and I both have kind of agreed that it's probably very likely that Matt Canada's not back. But Alex brought up an interesting point that he believes, and we have no way of knowing for sure who's how long some of these contracts are, but. There's a good chance that Matt Canada is under contract for at least next season as well, too. And, boy, you want to talk about how mad a fan base will be if 24 hours after the season ends, Matt Canada is not let go, right?
Yeah. Can you imagine if they keep this guy?
It's plausible. Is it at least plausible that he stays?
Oh, man, Dave, I don't know. I mean, Could you make a case for it? If you really squint, you probably could of, hey, let's keep the same OC for Kenny, and hey, the execution stuff was a problem, and hey, we got to swap out personnel, and hey, there was so much turnover and a new offense and so many growing pains, and maybe if the rest of the season goes better, I mean, what percent chance would you put on that? I don't know. I really don't. 20%, 10%. I don't know what feels right in terms of the odds of him returning, but
right.
I'm just going to kind of sit back and watch and evaluate after the fact.
One last thing, Dave. I have swung to your side of the fence regarding the fungibility of running backs. Have you ever watched The Big Bang Theory, and are you familiar with Fun with Flags? I think that's a skit that Sheldon. The only reason I know so much about
how do you know about The Big Bang Theory?
Big Bang Theory is because when we moved to Vegas and was trying to get settled in, and internet and all like that, that stuff runs late at night, like back-to-back episodes. I think I took in a good, I don't know, during that span of time of trying to get settled, a good 40 episodes or whatnot.
Oh my God.
And all like, so that's it. I think it's a cute show overall. I don't hate it, but it's not like when it was still in, cause I think it's already no longer, it's just in syndication now, right?
Right. There's no new episodes. Yeah.
But I get the Fun with Flags reference he makes here. Would you ever consider doing a couple of terrible takes called Fun with Fungibles, where you give recent and past examples to demonstrate your point, whether Steelers or otherwise? I mean, when get into, look, you always kind of hunt for stuff to have for a terrible take. Who knows? Maybe that'll be something I toy with during the off season here. I don't know what my terrible take is going to be until 30 minutes before I have to record it, be honest with you. Alex is so much better at putting those things together on the fly than I am, and I have to write mine out because it already takes me long enough to record stuff without stuttering all over the place anyway there. So and Alex, I appreciate you doing that yesterday for me as well too. Wasn't feeling all that great there.
Sure. Well, listen, I write mine out too, and you should hear some of my original copies. They're 5 minutes to do a 90-second terrible take, so I have as many problems as you do. I promise you that.
Yeah, look, I think I've had some 7-minute ones that get trimmed down to two minutes, and
heavy edits are terrible takes. That's for sure.
Thank God for editing abilities here. Looking forward to more positivity in Pittsburgh after this rare losing season. I'm a lifelong fan, no matter what. Thank you again for all you do. All right, Jay, thank you for that kind of unique email there. Todd Gensler writes in, hello, fellas. Hope you had a happy Thanksgiving. Wanted to talk about everybody's impatient towards a quarterback as you look around the NFL, and so many promising young quarterbacks are being yanked from the starting lineup and replaced with either journeymen or other promising quarterbacks who are trying to make a go of it. Most of these are top tier players who are flaming out. Where do you draw the line here? How much time does a team give a quarterback to figure out before being benched? Dave always says 20 games. Look around at Wentz, Goff, Zach Wilson now, Darnold, Mayfield, Davis Mills, just oodles and oodles of top tier. Highlight the quotes, quarterbacks that are not on the success train. Do coaches lose patience that quickly because they are trying to get the win? They are fearful of losing their jobs, and they are placating the fans. It's baffling to me, he says. I think of this and really implore Steeler fans to be very patient with Kenny, at least through this year and probably all of next year. Looks like we will find out soon enough, and we know the Steelers organization is more than patient compared to some of these other organizations that are always on the struggle bus. Hope this finds you well. Look, I get where you're coming from, Todd, and I think, as long as the quarterback's not causing the distractions, and I haven't researched all the things going on with the Jets and Zach, but it seems like he's not said some of the right things. It seems like there's a divide that has been caused, I think, in that locker room. Plus, on top of it, he's not playing overly well on top of it there. If you got a guy that's a good locker room guy, and Kenny by all looks is a very team player, seems to be saying the right things, and I have certainly, by learning from past mistakes of thinking this guy is this and this guy is that at the quarterback position around the NFL outside of Pittsburgh, and to only get to the 20-game mark, and then all of a sudden that guy ain't it. I've learned with the quarterback position to watch this thing mature, and I think Kenny's still trying to feel his way here overall, and learn some of these things that's happening on the defensive side of football, trying to get more of a rapport with players on offense, trying to work through, the bad things maybe with the play calling. I think you do have to be patient here. The thing that Alex and I had said, I think after the game against the Saints, was drawing the line in the sand here. Let's start seeing more than just the accuracy and cool under pressure here. And I think, even though it was a loss and there were some very minor things, I think, very positive takeaways that moved him, in my mind, in the right direction coming out of that game. Now, we want to continue to see these things, maybe week by week here. And, obviously like to see him better in the red zone. Obviously like to see him a little bit better pocket poise. Like to see him. Look, there's a couple of throws, I think, in this game, Alex, and you probably agree after watching it a couple of times here, that he's got to get this ball. He's got to anticipate his guys getting open a little bit better.
Is there any one throw in particular you're referencing?
I think there was one. I don't have them in front of me right now, but I think there were two throws in particular. I thought, man, you got to get rid of that out of the break. There was that one pass breakup. Oh, who was it that he threw over? I think it might have been Diontae on one of them. I thought, man, if that ball comes out a little quicker, that gets completed, with him coming out of his break here. I'll have to try to find out. I didn't notate down in distance or any of that. I think it was early in the first, or sometime in the first half there. But there have been a couple of times, especially in that game against the Bengals, where I thought, get rid of it. Get it out and anticipate your guy coming out of the break.
Yeah, I'm sure there's truth to that, but we both agree that there was real progress shown in that game, especially in the first half. I did that pretty deep dive breakdown into a lot of the positive from him. Listen, again, I sound so boring and so tiresome, I'm sure, but I'm just going to keep watching, keep evaluating, keep analyzing, not concluding, see where the rest of this rookie year wraps up, and then kind of take it all in totality. Probably go back and watch the start of his season and the end of his season, kind of see what that progression is when you put those things next to each other, and then we'll kind of go from there. But
I stand by the fact that it's 20 games, at least 20 games, and he's obviously about a third of the way there now, right?
Yeah, I think for me, I don't know if I have a game, but I just like to see the progression year 1 to year 2. When you get to training camp and you get into the early start of the 2023 season, do you really see tangible signs of pretty large improvement? You should, especially when you played your rookie year, you kind of made your mistakes and you got all that tape behind you, all those learning experiences. So that's kind of where it is for me. The first month of 2023 will kind of probably start to solidify my evaluation on Kenny Pickett.
Yeah, when it's not new to him, when he knows it's his team, when he has the whole off season, and I think the first 4 or 5 games into next season will be very telling, and especially if he makes some sort of sense of progress from here on out. But I came away from that tape against the Bengals feeling a smidge more better about him than I did going into the game.
Me too, but I recognize that it is just one game. He goes out there and lays an egg against the Colts, then we're having a different conversation. If he shreds the Colts, then we're having a different conversation. So it's all just one step at a time for me.
All right. I think that's got all the holiday mailbag out of the way there, Alex. So anything you'd like to add before we wrap this up? Kind of a shorter show today. Not much to talk about, just a coordinator corner and the injury report. There will obviously be the team's second injury report of week 12 out later today. And then the subsequent injury reports obviously be out. So when we get to Monday, we'll have all of that. And as Alex said, we'll have a beat writer on, and we'll do a thorough preview. The scouting, the scouting of the offense and defense post will go up on Monday morning, right?
Yeah, we save the scouting reports that Josh and Jonathan and myself do for Monday morning, so you guys can check that out to get your fill of Colts stuff. Then, no, that's about kind of going to cover things there. Again, sorry for my terrible voice. I probably sound 10 times worse than usual, but we'll be back on Monday and hopefully sound a whole lot better for you guys.
Yeah, we sound kind of depressed and hurtful. We sound like old battered old men at this point here. All right, folks, you can follow me on Twitter at Steelers Depot. Follow Alex on Twitter at Alex_Kozora. Follow the show at Terrible Podcast. Email the show, theterriblepodcast@gmail.com. If you like what we do and want to donate to the cause, go to SteelersDepot.com, hit the donate button, up right navigational bar. Also, if you like an ad-free version of the site, go to SteelersDepot.com. Hit the ad-free button. Hope everybody has a real safe rest of their weekend here. Going to sit back and watch a lot of football this weekend. We'll get to Monday and preview that Colts game and go from there. So until Monday, as always, thanks for listening to the Terrible Podcast with Dave and Alex.